Cult of Speed, the Cunning Tactics. Right now, this is my detachment. This is when I'm feeling like I'm enjoying playing and I'm having success playing. So it's a good mix of both. So this is my first-hand preference as we move into these detachments, and I'll keep going. So we have what this is really focusing on is a jail archetype. If you're playing Cult of Speed, I highly recommend you play it as a very quick, high pressure intensity type of build, whether you're incorporating the flex options or the old reliable spam options that we're going to break down on the list. Either ways, jail archetype is very important. That being said, very leaning into infiltration and or scout mechanics as well, on top of the quick mobility movements. I have definitely been calling turn 1 WAAAGHs, turn 2 WAAAGHs consistently with this Cult of Speed. In the past, I told you maybe you can play it out till turn 4 to kind of give the enemies, a reason to respect you to a certain degree and kind of play out the game. That was with how the meta was in the past, maybe a year ago. With how it is now, very much high intensity. You want to lean back on that 5-up invuln defensively. So movement wins games, and so does board control. A lot of the time, we can't actually kill all the problematic units and redundant amount of them being brought in the meta right now, but we can control what is actually interact with, what is actually being killed, where the enemy can get the initiative on, and their ability to score secondaries while we continue to score our own. And Cult of Speed is doing that best, whether you're running what we're talking about, the max capacity of spamming units, which would be what I mean when I talk about Koptas and Bikas. Though, like I said, the flex options allow you to move into the same archetype of jail archetype, move board control style, while still moving into either or of these units that I'm describing here. So currently, when I show you this list, most of the time, a lot of Koptas are being incorporated to the most successful Cult of Speed list, whether it's straight up 12 or we're going all the way to max 18 or anything in between those two. You definitely wanted to lead into that. A lot of the time, that's because the 4-up invuln. The 4-up invuln strat is just absolutely huge, not to mention the amount of attacks each Kopta gets innately of 6. Then it moves up to 7 on the WAAAGH, and you can also use Lance. They are base strength 5. So in reality, Koptas are also really, really good at picking up T3 infantry en masse, putting a bunch of punches on even T4 stuff or T5 stuff if it doesn't have great armor saves. And sometimes even if it does, I've plenty of time used Lance on the wall and just punch dudes. Just oh, you're T4, I'll put Lance on this, I'll be wounding you on 2s with all of these punches, and eventually I'll just melt you down. So Koptas, and because of not just their hypothetical, a lot of the time Kopta rocket damage, but because of their ability to fall back, move, shoot, charge, get into fights, put mortal wounds on people, 4-up invuln, still have a decent armor save, ability to fly, so you're not getting in the way of the other stuff that's moving around the field. Koptas are absolutely vital if you're playing this competitively. As for Bikers, I was honestly a bit down on Bikers a little bit in the past because so many people have answers to damage 3 stuff, but because the Bikers are so cheap where they're at now, because they end up making small arms feel almost irrelevant between their toughness 6 and their armor save of a 4+, Koptas still find a way with their ablative wounds to just soak up way more damage than an enemy wants to put into them, especially when you put the Deffkoptas Wartrikes on them. I'm a big fan of that. Remember, the Deffkoptas Wartrike gets additional AP, so then the Flameo coming off of him is -2 AP ignoring cover, which definitely has been pretty sick in certain situations as well. So if you're going the most competitive you can be, as I show the list, Koptas and Bikers are the backbone of this detachment, though you could do more. Now we have infantry support damage, and I kind of unpacked that when I said damage bricks. But in short, you can end up bringing all these multiple kind of skirmishing fighting units, whether you're going to see in the flex options, you're going to see kill rigs and snaggas people have incorporated, breaker boys with war bosses, SWAT teams with flash kits. We've seen people, and most of the time those are more on WTC or UKTC type of styles. But if you were to play the GW style, a lot of the time I see people bringing maybe even a gas break in the middle of the field to kind of hold it down on that layout 1, or a unit of big 10-man knobs in the truck. But as for me, which I actually should have put on here, but you're going to see when I show the list, I've actually been leaning into 20-man unit of boys with the enhancement faster than use. So I'll and before I move into that, I will mention, of course, the buggies. So I spent a lot of time, guys, a lot of time, more than most people in my meta wanted me to do, using buggies, because I really wanted them to work, and I did make them work to the degree that you can win more games than you can lose. You can have some really fun moments. The amount of toughness they have with the amount of wounds they have and the ability to pop strats can sometimes just throw the enemy for a ride on like how cheap they are to trade. You can end up drawing out a lot of trading pieces from the enemy and then killing those units, causing them to only have these big super missiles to commit to you. The strength of the buggy generally, sometimes their debuffs or their passive buffs are really cool too. Like if you want to utilize the indirect one and you have a mech bot and you want to hit it so you can indirect people and kind of slow them or dwindle their backfields, the -1 aura buggies can be interesting in combats as well. Shooting people for -1 is also interesting. But all in all, I think that buggies, kind of did end up leading my list for the most part. Not all of them. So not all of them. The one that generally stays is the Shaktim Jagsta, because he kind of ends up scoring or holding space for you and keeping that forward momentum. So that being said, I'll show the Zadrag Wartsnaga. So Zadrag Wartsnaga was actually really huge for me. You end up kind of taking up the field a lot already with your bikers, your Koptas, whatever vehicles you bring, and you need some kind of infantry that can still move fast, maintain the pressure, and kind of tar pit the enemy as well. So I'm a big fan of Zod, and a lot of the most reliably competitive lists are incorporating Zod. But like I said, if you're playing on different terrain, you might drop Zod for just more stuff because you find yourself just making contact quickly from behind walls and stuff. And I understand that. So let's show off the list real quick. So this is my personal list that I've been running, and we have the after action report, so you can check that out. It comes out I think Monday. So from the point of this recording or something like that. So you can see me use this in real time at an RTT. I guess not real time because it's pictures, but you know what I mean. But this list, I definitely appreciated it and had a lot of fun with it. And it really does throw a wrench in most people's game plan because of just how much pressure and ablative wounds and wounds is just straight up. So I call this list all gas, no gas. So we have 2 Def Killer War Trikes, one with WAAAGH Blasta. That's the one where if you shoot, then you can move, but you cannot charge. I will say it hasn't really come up, but there are situations, like I said, with maybe you want to move block a Vitrix Guard unit, for example, in some circumstance. You might be able to use this instead of fighting them, since you'll probably do no damage if you choose, and they might be able to just delete your unit. Instead, you decide to want to use your big wall of bikers to stop them. That's the WAAAGH Blasta, hypothetically, is for slowing stuff down. But typically it didn't happen. Typically I was just getting in people's faces. Then we have my favorite piece that I was actually convinced into doing was a war boss with faster than use 20-man boy unit. Now, at first I was like, that's such an expensive enhancement. It makes the unit quite expensive. But one of my good friends was like, well, I kind of feel like that's the main reason you'd play this detach, dude. I mean, you could just straight up throw these guys in people's faces. And so after some back and forth, I really started to join this piece. Being able to put 20 boys on people's deployment zone is absolutely huge. And the enemy typically doesn't want to have to deal with all of these wounds that are coming at them, because on top of having the boys in the mob, you have Zagrod Wartsnaga. So Zagrod Wartsnaga, if your commandos have made space for you and you've taken advantage of good deployment, you can take advantage of his great scouting ability, and again running in and tar pitting people. So back to back, you can already see I'm combining and doubling down on the amount of just infantry bodies and mobs. That way the enemy can't just use one. Let's say that one gladiator reaper doesn't solve the problem. They need a redundant amount of answers for this, yet it's not backbreaking on point, though it is the most expensive combo I have on the list. So that's with the battle wagon. Then we move into the obvious 3 big man 6-man units of Deffkoptas, all with rockets. I really appreciate the rockets because once they get the blast going, the sustain 2 strat is absolutely going, and it means a lot for me. Now, in the waves of how this list rolls out, a lot of the time it's either Mandos and Bikers or Mandos and infantry mobs going in first, or maybe just the Mandos on their own, but going in first, kind of soaking up or holding the enemy at bay. Second wave comes in of usually a Bikers or, like I said, infantry, whichever didn't go that one. And then third will be the Deffkoptas coming in and kind of cleaning up and or continuing to bog down the enemy. So this list has a lot of redundancy. It also helps with your timing of playing the game. The fact that you are bringing the same profiles and you know what dice you need, you can just keep rolling them quickly without having too much thought. Helps with the speed of this because you're moving so many pieces around, you have so much stuff. But it was also a really good time. One small Gretchen unit so that you can screen your home field. 2 commando units because, like I said, you already have so much stuff and you need to see so much space that I ended up deciding 2 Mandos was better than 1. The reason for that also is because I'm trying to use one of these Mandos to completely neutralize really enemies, infiltrators, and or so a lot of my games, not all of them, but a lot of the games, I would keep one Mando unit out, go along the home, the whole no man's land, and just box out enemies that can't even scout and or infiltrate. And then I'll split my last 10-man unit into different zones, and they act as scoring or screening units as everything else moves to take momentum. Then we have the big shock jump dragster go. He arguably might be the most reliable buggy, just because he can take advantage of his moving around, and he acts more as like a tool for you, and he's still at that good point cost. So Shotgun Dragster felt pretty good in that way. Always held him back to screen, and then as I needed later in the games, he would come forward and try to score, and kind of keep the enemy backfield, respectable of their backfield. Even though I would also a lot of the time deep strike one of these copter units. Then we move to 3 big bricks of Warbikers. One of them is unled, which is actually useful because the trikes are so freaking huge that if I had a third trike, I would not be able to get anywhere. So this unit not having a third trike is a big deal for your ability to move around. Actually get around to implement this unit, and enemies still have to commit to killing it while it's quite cheap at 130 points for the amount of wounds and toughness and armor save you get. Still good access with the strats to have options if you feel like using them in a skirmish. So nonetheless, this was my favorite version of Cult of Speed. As for the super chat question, what's up, Arcane? Whoa, $5 for the super chat. So after putting all your buggies through their pace, what's your favorite buggy now? That would say that'd be a circumstance of list, because you'll be surprised that there is a detachment that I have used buggy that isn't Cult of Speed. But in short, I can name 3 of them that I like. Shock Jump Jester for what I just mentioned, his scoring capability and board control. 2 would be the Boomdaka Snazwagon alongside the custom booster blaster for the debuffing effects. So if it's Cult of Speed specific, I am more of a fan of the Boomdaka Snazwagon for its volume and its -1 hit aura, but passively the custom booster blaster is all right as well. And then as for just straight damage and mortal wounds, it really helped in Cult of Speed the most to have the Megatrack Scrapjet, to have them in duplicate to actually try to put off some damage, even though it's quite unreliable with that platform. When it did go off, it felt really good. Last but not least, the indirect buggy did have his moments where he shined when I had the max support for him, but a part of me feels like the meta has moved past that. So if maybe people are not really respectably putting anything in their home field, have a good blast option, you might be able to incorporate that tool as well if you feel like taking something weird first. So thank you for that super chat you get. Shout out to our sponsors, the Baron of Dice, as they helped us do our wall tactic dice. So shout them out. Check them out in the description, 5% off in the discount, because nobody likes taxes. And shout out to Baron of Dice. They allow us to do our paint competition. So thank you very much to them. If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!